So very happy to have you here today for the cross-innovation success factors session of this conference. Yeah, that's what we'll cover today. We'll have a brief introduction to our approach. We'll give you an overview of our success factors that we developed over the years in the Cross-Innovation Hub. We'll elaborate on some factors in depth. We'll also have some time for discussions, yeah, we're looking forward. I think some of you might know Hamburg Kreatov Gesellschaft already. We are also hosting this conference, but just to give you a brief introduction to this, we're a public agency of the city of Hamburg, supporting the creative industries, cultural and creative industries in Hamburg through different fields, such as innovation, knowledge, space, and financing. And the cultural and creative industries you see on the left are very diverse and heterogeneous. Raffaela, my colleague, and I, we're both part of the Cross-Innovation Hub, where we foster innovation at the intersection of the cultural and creative industries and other sectors of the economy. And we do that through different workshops and programs, and we try to foster process innovation, service innovation, product innovation, business models, but also, you know, like culture change along those buzzy words of new work and sorts of. Raffaela, do you want to deep dive into our process a little bit more?
Yeah, so this is what we do, what Lea said, and so we try to bring together creatives with people from other industries. They may be from the business sector or the public sector, but there's always this premise that creatives have to be involved. And just to have a short glimpse of the process, the ideotypical process, you have this slide here. So there's always this thing of setting. So with setting, we actually mean the success factors we would shortly dive deeper into. So it can be factors like eye-level collaboration, place, constellation of participants, or time and duration. So those are crucial factors that we bear in mind whenever we start a cross-innovation format. And a cross-innovation format can actually be a one-day workshop until up to several months of a cross-innovation lab or cross-innovation class where we work together with students. So it can differ a lot. Then we always have this double diamond process, ideally at least one diamond. You probably know that. It's this double diamond as proposed by the British Design Council, a classical design thinking approach where we make sure that there are periods of divergence and then again periods of convergence. So divergence meaning that we consciously increasing multi-perspectivity, that we are consciously increasing complexity before we synthesize and condense and define. So whenever we start with challenges of participants, there's always space to go deeper into and do some research about where this challenge actually comes from, to dive deeper into the problem setting, and then to synthesize again and maybe daring to redefine the challenge that we just started with. So this period of project is very much about bonding, framing, and understanding, and really looking that there is an effective eye-level collaboration going to take place in the period of project, where it's about ideation in first place, so to develop very many idea routes, and then realize one route towards a solution, so that in the end we have a result open but yet solution focused process. After the project, there is this period of eject where it's very much about testing. This is where we also partner with, for instance, banks, so that their promotion programs can actually help at that stage when something is really, when there is a prototype at least, And we're doing evaluation, of course, because we're a learning project. So this is very crucial for us at that point too. And especially as we're doing cross-innovation, and it always implies that we're doing open innovation, those periods when divergence turns into convergence are very crucial, and because it really allows for worthy critique and eye-level collaboration throughout. So how do we see ourselves? How do we understand our role? We try to build and create a space of trust and psychological security. And with this are combined or interlinked automatically several success factors that we'll see on the next slide, and that we will now dive deeper into. And of course, this is our work in progress. So it's not 12 finally, we're learning. So it may be 14 until the end of next year. And it's not always so distinct. So you may cluster some of the success factors that we will now have a glimpse at with Lea.
Exactly, thank you, Raffaela. As Raffaela mentioned, this is indeed work in progress. We are a learning project. We learn every day and evaluate a lot, as you see also in this process slide. It's continuously evaluation from our side. However, we have identified actually 13 different factors that have hugely contributed to successful cross-innovation processes in our experience, in our very own programs and formats that we would like to share with you today. Those that have this little spotlight on, we will touch upon later. And yeah, now just a brief overview of the other methods. So time and duration is one that Raffaela already mentioned. We always have this double or at least one diamond structure. So it varies really from 1 day to 6 months, our workshops, and it's essential for the design of the process. We have financial and legal frameworks in place. There's also a workshop just right now, I think, next to us, about the legal frameworks of cross-innovation processes. And those really contribute also to the success of cross-innovation processes, because it provides this eye-level collaboration, and it makes the cooperation between partners just settled. You know, everyone knows what they go into this process with, and partnerships can arise from that. Then we have motivation, of course, is essential for every process that you go through. Sometimes our processes are very long, so motivation is key, and we try to do that through various informal meetings, also through entertainment, through good facilitation, and just, you know, common experiences. And then we have methods. Raffaela is hosting another session on methods, creative methods, that we have developed over the past year, actually, which we observed from the creative industries. And some of those you see here. So, for example, search the art is one, embodiment is another one, and we have matched those methods with our process and use them differently. So we make use of also, of course, design thinking methods or agile methods, but have also developed our own methods over the years. And then lastly, partner are essential for our work. We rely on them, and they also co-finance our projects, of course. We have different kinds of partners. So of course, on the one hand, we have the corporate partners that go through our programs, that participate in the programs. But then we also have like other public agencies or institutions that support us, or Raffaela mentioned a bank, for example, so that we can extend the lifetime of a project and realize it also in the future and in reality. So partners and partnerships are really essential to our being. And now we will dive into the seven factors a little bit deeper. The first factor is constellation of participants. In cross-innovation processes, we collaborate with creatives in the early phases of innovation. So our first premise, of course, is that we need to match people from the creative industries together with people from other economic sectors in a ratio of 50-50. Of course, that's not always the case. So sometimes we have more people from the creative industries or more people from corporates, but that's just in an ideal world what it is. And then, of course, we are looking for a very diverse group of participants because it just makes the experience a lot richer. So we're looking for different education backgrounds, different professional backgrounds, different hierarchy levels also, so that you just break through every silo there is, but also different demographics. So just different ages of gender, cultural backgrounds. That's all very important to having a good, diverse group of people coming together. And we experience that it usually benefits our processes just through different experiences they bring to the table. And another factor here is also motivation. We are also always in the applications ask for the motivation to participate because we need to have a certain mindset that we can trigger during our formats. So you need to be open to experience a new kind of process. And then we have another selection process for our creatives in place. So we select or we look for visionary creatives from all of the 11 different sub-markets of the creative industries. And here, for one challenge, we always look for creatives that have a support, or that are a support leg and a free leg to the challenge. So, for example, if you have a design challenge, we would look for obvious qualities such as designers or UX designers, and then we would look for not so obvious qualities in creatives such as filmmaking for the same challenge. And that's we find that really great to see that people with non-obvious qualities can benefit the process so much. And then also we have juries for bigger formats such as the Cross Innovation Lab that also selects creatives based on their resume and their experiences, their motivation, and so on. So we have a more objective view on things. How are teams formed in the process? We have two kind of approaches. We use matching for some of the processes. So we pre-match the different participants with each other to form teams based on their skills and qualities. But we also use open space methods. So they can choose the team, they form the teams themselves based on interest. Another important factor for successful collaboration is mindset, Raffaela.
Yes, thank you, Lea. And thank you also for the questions in the chat. We will definitely pick up on them just after the short presentation of these 7 success factors that we're just having a focus on right now. So mindset, we believe that cross-innovation premises a certain mindset of openness, flexibility, ambiguity, tolerance, and readiness, and make a spirit to really experiment and to transform. So what we do is actually we partly search for people with this mindset, but always trigger it, whether it may be by facilitations, methods, or the space that we choose. Sometimes we teach it also, like I'm teaching a cross-innovation mindset. But we also observe that our formats naturally address people who are ready to a certain amount of uncertainty. However, it does need, it often needs a persuasion for non-creatives. And of course, as you can imagine, the acquisition of co-financing partners is something that is not always easy, because we have to convince them that this mindset is worth it and that they can trust a solution focused but yet result open process. So to dive a little bit deeper, what are key aspects of this mindset? Openness. It's this openness towards open-ended but solution-oriented processes. To really bear this uncertainty, to appreciate a change of perspective or changes of perspective throughout in the diverse groups, participant constellations that Lea just mentioned. That goes hand in hand with flexibility, to fastly adapt to different settings, contexts, content, sparring partners, and to accept also this preliminarity that goes along with developing something in such an open process. Goes hand in hand with ambiguity tolerance, as we consciously have these periods of divergence and consciously increase complexity. There is this acceptance needed of that things may be like this or may not be, and to really embrace this complexity, and at the same time then enter in a collaborative setting with each other periods of divergence, convergence afterwards. And there's this readiness to experiment and to really then transform. So crucial for us is that participants have a learning mindset. So a willingness to understand, to decide, to realize, to make, and to test. So this iterative loop of understanding, deciding, making, and testing. And but it's not only about this learning mindset, but really a mutual learning mindset, so that it's really an eye-level collaboration, and that participants can really be precious sparring partners for each other's partners in crime throughout. And of course, this implies also active empathy among them. And we believe that this is just this mutual learning mindset is key for open and yet effective eye-level collaboration. Never give up, as the dog picture shows.
I was getting a little dizzy with the dog running around all the time, so I stopped it at some point. I think we mentioned this factor quite some times already. It's called eye-level collaboration, but it's one that is really essential to our programs, because that's what makes cross-innovation special. Usually creatives are contracted at the end of the value chain, so to give products a finishing touch, or to make aesthetics or something like that. We like to include them in the early stages of innovation and not at the end of the value chain. So what's important to our process is that they don't experience this process as a contractor client relationship, between the creatives and the industry partners, but more they are considered equal partners within our process. So it's not like the creatives do the ideation phase alone, but they collaborate in every stage of the process. They go through the whole process together, and everyone has the same job, basically. So that's really important to us. And again, how do we do this? We try to communicate as transparent as possible to manage expectations from the start on both sides, so that the industry partner doesn't expect like a product ideation from the creators and the other way around. We create a feeling of togetherness and like-mindedness through various workshops, through setting, through team building and bonding. And in longer formats, we also check in on the participants to make sure everyone feels valued. And as I mentioned earlier, we also provide legal and financial frameworks that support this idea of eye-level collaborations. And of course, that includes that our creatives are compensated financially for their work, obviously. So going on to facilitation, Raffaela.
Right, so facilitation is another very crucial success factor for us because we believe it makes open and effective eye-level collaboration and open-ended but solution-focused processes possible. And that means that we sometimes facilitate ourselves, but we also rely on external experts just to open up our own perspective and to get more cross-innovation expertise in. And there are also facilitators who have, for instance, their expertise in different in topics that we are approaching, for instance, climate neutrality or new forms of collaboration. But generally speaking, as we always work with heterogeneous participants, which may surely not automatically understand each other, not language-wise, meaning English versus German, Spanish or something, but really as they come from different industries, it's just very crucial in our mind, from our point of view, to be a good sparringspartner in this and to choose methods and or wisely. So what does good facilitation mean? We trigger a mutual learning mindset that we just talked about. We make considerate use of methods from the creative industries and beyond. We keep we keep the tension field in mind of structure versus freedom in terms of the process and the methods. So as you can imagine, when we work together with co-financing partners from the business sector, for them it gives a lot of security that they see a design thinking process. But within this design thinking process, which is rather classical, we make use of methods that are not the typical ones, that we really extracted from in-depth interviews or that we extracted from observation, because we believe that it really makes eye-level collaboration and effective. So, and then we really seek for a fun, open atmosphere, because fun is just always has to be part. We provide chances for individual and group-based reflection. I mean, that goes hand in hand with this learning mindset. So we have to make sure that everyone has enough time to individually learn and learn as a group and have that experience. And just in our understanding, or the understanding of our role, we always try to be trustful sparring partners throughout. So we share impulses and ideas, but first and foremost, trigger and support to raise all potentials of the involved agents and parties. So their skills, their competencies, their experience, and their creativity. So that we just try to help finding those synergies and finding that spirit together in which all potentials are really raised. Yeah. And another success factor is space. So we believe that space can trigger creativity. So we consciously choose certain spaces for certain formats or subjects, themes. We believe it's a key factor in the sense that it gives visionary thinking and innovation of physical or virtual home, and it can really serve as a springboard. So what appears to be important for us, of course, we do appreciate between physical and a virtual space, yet always try to create an atmosphere which inspires, partly subject-wise. So of course, as you can imagine, and as we all experienced throughout the pandemic, it may be a little bit more challenging to do that in the virtual space because we set a lot of, or we put a lot of focus on that interest, action, and interiors-based learning. And this is, it's easier, but at the same time, of course, it's possible virtually again. And we have to also figure out of how to find good hybrid solutions after the pandemic. Generally, we want all participants to spatially stray from the familiar so that they get inspired and that we evoke openness for something sustainably new by space. Every space and spatial design we choose must trigger a certain mutual learning mindsets and eye-level collaboration, so that there is a bigger collaboration space, but there are also breakout rooms, etc., and maybe even fab labs. As you see here, there we had some fab labs at university in our formats included with students, and you see on the top on the left-hand side a space in a creative area we had a cross-innovation lab at. There was like this big collaboration space with a high ceiling. High ceilings are always good, as we think, to trigger thinking out of the box and really being visionary. We had another workshop room there, and also a fab lab where 3D printing was possible. And you see on the bottom, on the right-hand side, we are partnered with Vitra, so the furniture manufacturer. They had an exhibition on agility, so we did a format about new forms of collaboration there. It was just a perfect match. Generally, we do appreciate and prefer rather rough maker spaces for maker spirit, and spaces and areas of the creative industries subsume the qualities of creators. So that's what we really always try to do our formats so they do, we believe that those spaces also give a security to creatives, but they allow for lasting memories for all participants involved. Lea.
Thanks. I see so many great questions here. I think we have to squeeze in a Q&A after we're done. This is also, yeah, almost our last. It's the second to last. Intended output. So I think we've mentioned openness to results a lot of times, like an open process, but of course we have the desire to have an outcome in the end. So we frame every program under a specific output. So we have certain types of programs, for example, the Cross-Innovation Lab, which is designed to produce prototypes or products. And we have other types where we, for example, content foresight, where we develop future business models together with creatives and industry partners. And so we have a lot of variety between these programs and how they set up. But within that frame, and this is really important, everything is open. So no one goes in with a specific expectation of what will be the outcome. They only know there will be an outcome and it's going to be a prototype, let's say, but they wouldn't know how that prototype is going to look. So that also expresses this relationship everyone has with each other. So they collaborate towards a commonly or mutually developed outcome. And no one knows beforehand. So the client, we never call them client, the industry partners, they go in with a challenge in the Cross-Innovation Lab, for example, but it's very broad. It's formulated as a very broad question, and it's redefined also throughout the process. And then the creatives together with the company develop solutions towards or to this challenge. In the case of Garz and Fricke, for example, the challenge was they participated in a cross-innovation lab last year. The challenge was to foster an internal collaboration mindset. And what they came out out with was a product, the Donatifier, it's called. You can imagine, it's basically, you know, a spending hat. So you can donate, do mobile donations on it. And they did it in partnership with Viva Con Agua, for example. So they developed this prototype throughout the cross-innovation lab, and it really spurred a lot of different results also. So this prototype spans all the 3 different business units Garz and Fricke wanted to unite, and all of the skills are needed to develop this prototype. So it's a good example of what the outcome might be, but also what the side effects can be. And it's, I think that's just really, really important. But that also means that the participants have to trust the process. They have to trust us essentially also. And we do that basically also by, again, expectation management, and sensitizing them for this process of divergence and convergence, which is not always easy for industry partners also, as Raffaela already mentioned. So yeah, we're working without a predefined result, only with an intended outcome in the end. The last one, Raffaela.
The last one, and it fits very well to the intended output. It's about topic. So most of the time we set topics consciously. Sometimes we skip them for the sake of experiment and its potential and its potentials. The decision for a subject or against a subject is always a conscious act. To select a topic can be helpful for expectation management, for instance. Also the resonance of open calls, particularly when considering co-financing partners, because they get more easily buy-ins internally, and it's easier to communicate across innovation formats than for them to public audience. And it's most probably easier for networking. It may also foster synergies up to joint solutions in a longer process of cross-innovation. However, starting without a topic can also be a chance in which all participants really come out of their silos, and they need to open up so they can find synergies. And there is this serendipitous chance of cross-industry solutions. There is chances are high that something can come out of serendipity also. So, but what topics are particularly suitable for us? We believe that it's first and foremost just topics that trigger the intrinsic motivations of creatives. And we believe that those topics are closely linked and around sustainability and shaping of their immediate surrounding and experience. So we made experience with, for instance, formats about smart city solutions, or we're planning the next cross-innovation lab on climate neutrality. So where creatives come together with scientists, an interdisciplinary set of scientists and companies who look out for green solutions in the sense of product, process, and service innovation, or even new business models. So when they get intrinsically really motivated, and of course, I mean, premise is always that they're paid and that there is extrinsic, that there is payment for their performance and the ideas that they bring into processes so that the eye level is given. But that's just very worthwhile, we believe. And I think what fits this well also is that we as a team, the Cross Innovation Hub, made a clear decision that we also want to take on responsibility content-wise, that we really want to foster cross-innovation, but we want to foster meaningful cross-innovation. And so we will now have a clear focus also on the Sustainable Development Goals, So for instance, as I just said, with the Cross-Innovation Lab, we're focusing on climate neutrality and responsible consumption and production, and in another format with students, which is pretty much alike to the Cross-Innovation class, it will be about sustainable city. So just to really raise all the potentials that we see, and we believe that it's also about, for creatives taking part in cross-innovation formats, it's always crucial for them that they really experience something new and that they can really feel that they can actually shape something. That involving them in the early period of innovation really means that they're not only service providers, but that they actually work together with other agents from other industries on eye level, and that really means to shape something. And the more they're motivated intrinsically, the better it is for the whole process. And of course, this is also mutually speaking for the other agents. So sustainability and topics around societal topics are just work out quite fine. And as you see there, just to point out in the pictures, you also see this graphic recording down there. This really much pretty well condenses that we're also working a lot in the topical field of new forms of collaboration. So we have a format called Pop-Up Office, where we bring together cross-sector constellation of people who just have questions and challenges from their everyday life. And throughout a culture sprint of 3 days, they get, they become a sparring partner for each other and develop first solution impulses to go back to daily life. And we hope, in the sense of eject, remembering this ideal typical process, that they are sparring partners throughout all the following month, and not only in this format. So we always try to make sure that things don't fizzle out, but the constellations stay constructive for each other. But when it comes to topics, societal topics, and everything that touches creative intrinsically, works out very well. And I think this should be our deep dive.
That was our deep dive. And I think, there's so many questions. We actually plan to do a little breakout discussion, so you can share your experiences as well and share what resonated with you, what you missed, and so forth. Maybe we'll just answer some of the questions because there were just so many, and we have actually some time also. I think we're quite good. So let's do that right away. I saw Jutta, you had a few questions. Do you just want to start by raising a question?
If it's creatives from Hamburg only, right? I think that was one question of Jutta also. So we're fostering creatives in Hamburg, and it's public money being spent on that. So yes, when we do take public money, it goes towards creatives from Hamburg. But apart from that, we're not only working with agents from Hamburg, we involve also companies that don't have their headquarters here. We also work, of course, with creatives internationally. Also, it just depends on the format that we're doing. But generally, whenever public money is spent, it's only spent on creatives from Hamburg in this project. So when we're talking about the Cross-Innovation Lab, partners have to, or bigger companies have to pay 15,000 euro to participate. Small and medium-sized companies, 8,000 euros. So it's, to really, it's not easy because then, of course, they have to dare to start this solution-focused but yet result-open process. So it takes a lot, right? And we have to make it experiential what we're planning. But I believe that by making the processes clear, giving them a feeling of security, making sure that they see that we'll be a sparring partner throughout, experience, and that we do have cases from the past that prove that actual solutions were developed, and that prove that there always comes a trend part with it. You know, like the example that Lea talked about with Garz and Fricke, their task was very much about how can we unify our 3 business units that generally don't collaborate, and what would a product look like if we synthesize dependencies. And we do believe that creators can help us there, because they bring in really their creativity and their own experiences, and they naturally work in open innovation formats throughout. So it's one kind of a format that we do, or one kind of approach, but I would also like to stress that we're not only doing labs, we're also doing things like the pop-up office, where creatives and non-creatives participate in to be in an experimental exchange space. They can learn more about where work is actually developing to, but there that creatives are delivering on something, but they're both sides are learning with each other. They're both interested in new forms of collaboration, and then we'll have to see how to be good sparring partners throughout the process, how to facilitate such a process, that such a collaboration can really be effectful.
Yeah, but I think you've spoken to one of our biggest challenges, actually. It's not always easy, but I think, like as Raffaela said, all the cases that we have produced, all the results we can show, definitely makes it easier to convince partners, because they, yeah, and it's also a lot of word of mouth. So if one partner participated, they are so enthusiastic about it, they, yeah, share it with others, and that's how we also receive partners. Maybe time for another question. Do creative people participate free, or do they receive money? I hope we've made it clear, but let me make it clear again. They definitely receive money. But that depends. We also have some formats, for example, the pop-up office, where all of the partners pay. So also the creatives pay to be part of it, because it's more like a workshop for themselves to learn something, to broaden their mindset. They don't, I mean, they work on their own challenges, but if they work on companies or corporate challenges, they are getting paid.
Another interesting question is also, can the methodology, your procedure, be applied to more industrial focused projects? And I think that goes hand in hand with one of the questions in the beginning. So in how far does this process differ from the typical design thinking process? So now, as we just said, I mean, it always makes it easier if you have a design thinking process that is tangible and easily understandable, but within this process, we experiment. So we always try to look and watch out throughout the process when we can test what method, and the potential of creative methods that are really new and that are not from this agile classical set of tools. Just give, just really have so much potential for the periods of divergence, when it's really about, you know, somehow going wild, yeah, to open up spaces and to go beyond what classical research and development work looks like. And we take methods from the performing arts, where it's really about body language also, and presenting theater. I mean, you can imagine that when it's about process development, it may be important to also embody some of the protagonists that are part of a process that you want to reconsider. redefine. So that's just one example, but it's always a mixture of design thinking, which definitely makes sense and gives some trust, and experimentation when we feel like we can really go for it and do it.